guys, so today you're going to be completing review worksheet B using this video. I'm going to move a little faster than I did yesterday just because you did yesterday's and now you've seen it all the way through one time. Now we're going to give you the B worksheet. Please message me on Remind if you have any questions. The test is still going to be tomorrow, so please make sure that you have this review worksheet completed and that you are ready to go. Okay guys, so first things first, don't forget we're doing these as a fraction. You got to reduce those fractions down, and the decimals are supposed to be rounded to the nearest hundredth, which means we're rounding to 2 decimal places. When we're dealing with sine, cosine, and tangent, remember we're doing SOH, which is S-O-H, CA, C-A-H, and TOA, T-O-A. These formulas can be found on your formula sheet, which you will be allowed to use on the test tomorrow. Okay, here we go. Sine of A. So we're looking at A, mark that angle right there. You've got to decide what's opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So opposite is going to be the one directly across from it, so this is going to be your O. The hypotenuse is going to be across from that right angle right there, so that one is going to be your hypotenuse. And then the last one is always going to be your adjacent. It is going to be the one next to the angle that is not the hypotenuse. Okay, from there, when we're doing sine, it's going to be opposite over hypotenuse, so it's going to be 21 over 35. Now, even if it doesn't look like it's going to reduce, you need to type these in on a calculator. 21 fraction button 35 equals, it does reduce down, it reduces way down. It's going to reduce down to 3 over 5. And then to convert it into a decimal, you're going to do 3 divided by 5 equals, and that's going to give you 0.6. Okay, for cosine, we're doing adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent here is going to be 28 over the hypotenuse 35. So 28 over 35. Type it in on the calculator. 28 fraction button 35 equals, it's going to reduce it down to 4 over 5. And when you turn 4 over 5 into a decimal, do 4 divided by 5 equals, that's going to give you 0.8. Now again guys, if you can't type these in on your calculator yourself, it's not going to matter if you can copy it down. Please make sure you're doing the calculations as we go on your own calculator. Last one is going to be tangent. Tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. So the opposite in this picture is going to be the 21 over the adjacent 28. So 21 over 28. 21 fraction button 28 equals is going to reduce down to 3 over 4. And 3 over 4 is a decimal. 3 divided by 4 is going to equal 0.75. None of those needed to be rounded because none of them went past 2 decimal places, so those are just the straight answers. Okay, so for the next one, we're doing the exact same thing, but now we're doing sine, cosine, and tangent of C, so we're going to mark C. Opposite of C is going to be the 28, so this is going to be our O. The hypotenuse is going to be across from the right angle, so that's going to be the 35. That's going to be our H. And then the leftover one is going to be the A. That's going to be our 21 right there. The one we're dealing with when we're starting off is sine. So sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite is going to be 28 over the hypotenuse, which is that 35. So 28 fraction button 35 equals, it's going to give you 4 over 5. And to turn it into a decimal, you would do 4 divided by 5 equals, and that would put you at 0.8. Okay, for the next one, it's going to be cosine of C. Cosine of C is going to come from adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent is going to be 21 over the hypotenuse 35, so 21 over 35. So 21 fraction button 35 equals, that's going to put you at 3 over 5. And when you do 3 divided by 5 equals, that's going to give you 0.6 as a decimal. Okay, from there, tangent of C. Tangent is the only one that does not use hypotenuse. It's going to be opposite over adjacent. Oh gosh, opposite over adjacent. So opposite over adjacent is going to be opposite 28 over the adjacent, which is going to be 21. So 28 over 21, do 28 fraction button 21 equals, now that gives you a mixed number, so you do have to do second fraction button because it does need to be a fraction, cannot be a mixed number. When you hit 28 fraction button 21 equals, and then second fraction button, it should give you 4 over 3. Now this is a decimal that's going to be need to be rounded, so we would do 4 divided by 3 equals. Now on the calculator, it's going to be 1.333 because we're looking for hundredth, which is 2. So we underline the 2 out. We look behind it. That's going to stay the same. So it's just going to be 1.33. Okay, so that's going to be all the ones where we're doing the ratios and the decimals. That's going to be fractions that you have to reduce and turning them into decimals by doing top divided by bottom. Alright, as we go through and do that, we're going to we do not hit the sine, cosine, or tangent button at all when we're doing this. We do not use the sine, cosine, or tangent button when we're doing that at all. Okay, so going down here, we're going to be finding the missing side lengths, and we're rounding to the nearest hundredth on these, so we're going to be rounding to 2 decimal places. Whenever we're doing these, we're going to start by identifying our angle, circling that, and then identifying the pieces that we have. Opposite of that is going to be the 11. That's going to be our opposites. The hypotenuse is across from the right angle, so this is going to be our H, which leaves this as our A. The ones that have numbers on them or variables on them are going to be these two, which is going to be opposite and hypotenuse. Remember, we're still doing so, ka, TOA. You'll have that formula sheet on the day of the test that has this on there. So the one that has opposite and hypotenuse is going to be so, which is sine. It's going to be sine of the angle, which is 22, equals opposite 11 over the hypotenuse, which is x. Now when the variable is on the bottom, every single time you're going to switch these. That's going to make it x equals 11 over sine 22. You're just switching the x with the sine 22. The whole thing switches, guys. Now what that does is turn this into a division problem. So clear out your calculators. So to type this, it's going to be 11 divided by 22 sine equals. Now on the calculator, that's going to give you 29.36, and it does not need to round up, so we're going to leave it just at 29.36. We need 2 numbers after the decimal. There's a 4 after that, so we do not round it at all. Again, that's going to be 11 divided by 22 sine equals. Okay, guys, the next one, we have this 42 right here. That 42, the x is going to be opposite of that. Identify opposite first. It's the easiest one to identify with the angle. The right angle is going to give you the hypotenuse, which only leaves you the adjacent side right here for this 39. You're going to be using the 2 that have numbers or variables on them, so it's going to be the O and the A, and when we're doing O and A, that's going to be tangent. So it's going to be tangent of the angle, which is 42, equals the opposite over adjacent, so it's going to be opposite, which is x, over the adjacent, which is 39. Now when the number is on the bottom, you're going to multiply both sides by 39. When you multiply both sides by 39, you're going to use your calculator to multiply that out. That cancels out. All we got left on that side is x. Clear it out. It's going to be 39 times 42 tangent equals. Now on the calculator, that's going to need to be rounded, so I'm going to write out what it is. It's going to be 35.115. So that 1 with a 5 behind it is going to have to round up, so it's going to be 35.1, and then that 1 right there, that's what we're trying to round. That's going to round up to a 2 because it's got a 5 or above after it. So 35.12. 35.12. Okay, so for the next one, we are going to be, oh, hold on a second, guys. Sorry, something dropped on the ground. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, I couldn't reach my pen. So we've got this 39-degree angle right here. The opposite, oh, I don't want to draw that because it's not part of it. I just want to stay consistent with what I'm doing. Opposite one is going to be across from here, so that's going to be opposite. The one that is across from the right angle is going to be your hypotenuse. And the last one's going to be your adjacent side. The two that you have are going to be the H and the A. Okay, if you got H and A, you're looking at cosine. So the cosine of 39 is going to be equal to adjacent 17 over the hypotenuse x. And anytime x is on the bottom, you're just going to switch these. So that it's going to be x equals 17 over cosine 39, which means it changes it into a division problem. This is now a division problem. Alright. So when you type that in, it's now going to be 17 divided by 39 cosine equals. Now that's going to need, let's see, does it need to be rounded? Nope, that one's going to stay the same, so it's just going to be 21.87. No rounding needed because after the 7 is a 4. Okay, guys. So from here, the last one is going to have this 64-degree angle inside here. The 91 is going to be opposite of that. The one across from the right angle is going to be your hypotenuse, and your other side is going to be your adjacent side. Since we have a variable and a number on the adjacent and the opposite side, opposite and adjacent means we're going to be using tangent. So it's going to be tangent of the angle, which is 64, equals opposite over adjacent, so it's going to be 91 over x. When the variable's on the bottom, you're just going to switch them. That's going to make it x equals 91 over tan 64, which is going to be x equals, and now clear it out. Let's type it. Again, if you can't type this on your own on the day of the test, it doesn't matter. So keep doing your calculations. Pause it. Pause the video and get these calculations in. 91 divided by 64 tangent equals. That's going to be 44.38. And no rounding needed, no rounding up. You have to round it off, but no rounding up needed on that. So 44.38. Okay, so that's every one of the ones where you're finding a missing side. Now we're going to do 4 of them that are going to be the missing angle, and then we will do the word problem. So let's keep going on to the back. Okay, here we go. So every time we're doing a missing angle, you're going to circle that missing angle. You're going to identify what you have. This is the opposite side. The hypotenuse is across in the right angle, so this is your H, and this is going to be your A. Since the two that we're dealing with have an O and an H, let's remember which ones we got. So, ka, toa. You can find these on your formula sheet on the day of the test and today. Okay, since we got O and H, we're going to be dealing with sine, so it's going to be sine of x is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, so it's going to be 8 over 27. Anytime you are missing an angle, you are going to need to do the inverse function and switch these. So it's now going to become sine -1, and then it's going to be 8 over 27 equals x. Now what that -1, remember that means you're going to be hitting the second key, and since we're going to the nearest degree, that means you're going to be doing 0 decimals. Okay, so here we go. Clear out that calculator. Okay, here we go. 8 fraction button 27 second sine equals. That's going to round off to 17 degrees. 17 degrees for that angle. No rounding up, just round it off. Okay, for the next one, we're going to be rounding that one. For that next one, we're going to be rounding, let's see. That's going to be circle. So this is going to be opposite. The angle across, the side across from the right angle is going to be your hypotenuse, and the other one's going to be adjacent. So we have opposite and adjacent that have numbers on them. So opposite and adjacent means we're going to do a tangent. So it's going to be tangent of x, because we don't know the angle yet, equals opposite over adjacent, so it's going to be 40 over 42. Whenever you don't know that, you're going to switch them. It's going to make it tan -1, do the inverse function. 40 over 42 equals x. Okay, so to type that one, it's going to be 40, fraction button 42, second tangent equals. Now that one does need to be rounded up, so I'm going to show you what it looks like on the calculator. 43.6 equals x, and since we're rounding the nearest whole number, that's right there. The number behind it is a 6, so that's 5 or more. So that's going to round that 3 up to the next number. So that means it's going to be 44 degrees equals x. That's going to make it a 44 degree angle. Okay, for the next one, a little bit bigger numbers. Let's see if it'll fit in the calculator. We'll see. We'll talk about it. You might have to reduce it. We'll see if we have to. We'll just have to see when we type it in. So again, opposite side over here. Hypotenuse across from the right angle, that's h, and our a is our last one. The ones that we have numbers on are going to be the a and the h. If we're doing a and h, we're going to be dealing with cosine. So we've got cosine of an unknown angle, cosine of x, equals adjacent, that's going to be 100, over hypotenuse, that's going to be 120. Let's see if it'll do it without having to cancel anything out or reduce it. Let's see. So again, you'll use the inverse function, switch these. It's going to make it cosine -1, 100 over 120 equals x. Switch that fraction with the x. Okay, so let's see if it'll type it. Clear it out, guys. 100 fraction button, 120 second cosine equals. And this one is going to need to be rounded, so it's 33.5 equals x. So we're looking at this 3, we got a 5 behind it, so it's going to be 34 equals x, which is 34 degrees. 34 degrees for that angle. Okay, our last one of these, this is the last angle we're finding. So for this one, we've got the angle x right here. The 5 is opposite of that. Across from the right angle is going to be your hypotenuse. The 13 is the last one. That's going to be your adjacent side. So when you're doing this, you've got a number on the opposite and on the adjacent. If you're doing opposite and adjacent, you're going to be dealing with tangent. So it's going to be tangent of x equals the opposite side 5 over the adjacent side 13. When you have an unknown angle, you're going to switch these and use the inverse function, so it's going to make it tan negative 1, 5 over 13 equals x. Okay, to type that, clear it out, it's going to be 5 fraction button 13 second tangent equals. Now that one just rounds off, so that last one, oh, I hit the button wrong. So 5 fraction button 13 second tangent equals, oh no, I get it right. That's going to put you at 21 equals x. 21. So that's going to be 21 degrees for that angle. 21 degrees for that angle. Okay, so for the last of these, we've got our 4 word problems. Take a minute and draw some right triangles. So for each one of these, you got to draw a picture, putting the numbers in the right spot. I've told you is everything. You got to be able to get that right. So we're going to start with 4 right triangles. The simpler you make these, the easier they're going to be. They don't need to be fancy. They don't need to be big. Just draw a simple right triangle. Try to make them go all the same direction, then you won't get confused. Just draw 4 right triangles. Pause right here if you haven't drawn them as quickly as I have, which is fine. I told you I was going to leave a little faster on this one than the last last worksheet, so here we go. There are your 4 right triangles that we're going to fill in the information on. Okay, here we go. So we got a tree, so here's our tree. Our tree is casting a shadow on the ground. The shadow's down here. Shadows go on the ground, guys. They don't float in the air. So we got a tree, we got a shadow. It says the shadow is 7 meters long. So this is 7 meters down here. It says the angle of elevation to the sun is 46 degrees. So we got a 46 degree. I got to change the blue. When I have that tree there, that drawing, I got to put that in there. So that's going to be 46 degrees. Much better. And it says, what is the height of the tree? The height of the tree is right here. That's going to be x right there. So then you identify your opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. So opposite is going to be straight across from that angle, so that's going to be opposite. Got the hypotenuse across from the right angle, that's going to be h. And then this is going to be your adjacent side. So from there, you're going to deal with what have you got? Well, you got one on the opposite and one on the adjacent. If you got opposite and adjacent, remember we're doing so, ka, toa. And if we're doing SOHCAHTOA, okay, and you're dealing with opposite and adjacent, okay. If you're dealing with opposite and adjacent, you're going to be dealing with x over 7. X over 7. So set it up. Again, this is tangent at O and A. So tangent of 46 equals opposite x over the adjacent 7. To solve that, you would just multiply both sides by 7. Grab your calculator. That's going to be 7 times 46 tangent equals, again, if you can't get these answers, it's going to be a problem, guys. Now, we're still using the same rounding rules, so side lengths go to the nearest hundredth, so that means we're going to be rounding this to 2 decimal places. Angles go to the nearest whole number, which means 0 decimal places. Since this is going to be a side length, it's on the outside, that means we got to go out to 2 decimal places, and this one is going to round, so it's on the calculator at 7.248 equals x, because these cancel out. A 4 with an 8 behind it is going to round up, so that 4 has got to round up to the next number, which is going to be 7.25 equals x. Now this is a word problem, so put it up here, put the unit on it, do that good stuff. It's going to be 7.25, and it is meters. 7.25 meters. Okay. Problem number 16. 16 is going to be talking about that helicopter over a helipad. It's got a hospital landing pad. It says hospital landing pad is 150 feet from the landing. So the hospital is 150 feet from the landing pad. And it says the nurse waiting at the ER on the ground and sees the helicopter at an angle of 61 degrees. What is the altitude? Remember, this means straight up and down. Altitude means height, straight up and down. Okay, what is the altitude of the helicopter? So let's break that down. So we got this little helipad out here, those little circles that they land on. Okay, it's got a helicopter floating up here in the air. Okay, it says that this hospital right here, let's make a hospital, okay, is 150 feet from that helipad. 150 feet from the landing pad. So that's 150 feet from that landing pad. So we have 150 right here. It says the angle of elevation is going to be 61 degrees. So we put that 61 degrees right there. And it says what is the altitude? So we don't know how tall it is. So we put an X. So this is going to be the opposite side. This is going to be the hypotenuse because across from the right angle is the hypotenuse, which means this is the adjacent side. So what we have is opposite and adjacent. If we're dealing with opposite and adjacent, we're going to be dealing with tangent again. So it's going to be tangent of 61 equals opposite X over the adjacent side 150. To get that 150 off the bottom, we would have to multiply both sides by that 150. So times 150 on both sides so that I can cancel that out. That's going to make it 150. Oh wait, clear our calculators because some of y'all didn't clear them out. Clear them out. 150 times 61 tangent equals. Got it, equals at the end. Now remember, we're going 2 decimal places out, and we do need to round here, so I'll write it and then we'll round it. That's going to make it 270.607 equals X. I've got a 0 with a 7 behind it. That's going to round that 0 up to a 1. So it's going to be 270.61 equals X, which is really 270.61, and the unit was feet. That's how high up in the air the helicopter is at that moment. Okay, so the next one, again, we've talked about this, we'll keep saying this. When you're talking about flying a kite, the string on a kite, if it is flying, is up in the air. So we've got a kite right here. That kite is going to be flying with its string. Someone's down here. They're holding it. They've got a hold of that kite. Okay, the string is right here. It says that you are flying a kite and have let out 200 feet of string. 200 feet of string. This is the string. 200 feet right here. The kite angle of elevation with this ground is 30 degrees. So 30 degrees for that angle of elevation. If the string is stretched out straight, how high is the kite above the ground? So we're looking for height, which goes straight up and down. That's going to be this one right here. So we need to identify the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So across from that 30 is going to make this the opposite side. Across from the right angle is going to make this the hypotenuse, which makes this one the adjacent. That means the ones that we have a number on or variable on are going to be O and H. If we're dealing with O and H, we're going to be doing sine to do this problem. So it's going to be sine of 30 equals, and when you're doing sine, it's O over H. So it's going to be O, which right here is X, over the H, which is 200. To get that 200 off the bottom, we would multiply both sides by 200. That lets me cancel that out. And then I need to type what's here on the bottom. So clear it out. It's going to be 200 times 30 sine equals. That's going to put you at 100 equals x. Don't have to round that one at all. That one's really nice. So let's put a unit on that. That's going to be 100, and the unit in here is feet. Again, 200 times 30 sine equals. And there's no rounding, not even rounding off. It's just 100. Okay, last one of the day, guys. Here we go. We have a 15-foot pole. Let's try that again. We have a 15-foot pole leaning against the wall. So here's our wall. We got a pole that's leaning, because leaning things don't go straight up and down. So it's leaning. This one, okay, is a 15-foot pole. It says the foot of the pole, that's right here, is 5 feet from the wall. So this distance to the wall is going to be 5 feet. It says find the angle the pole makes with the ground. So the pole to the ground, that angle is going to be right here at x. And to do this problem, we still need to identify opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So the opposite side is going to be this one. Opposite's going to be here. Hypotenuse is going to be across on the right angle, so this is going to be your hypotenuse. And then the one that is left over is going to be your adjacent side. So that adjacent side is next to that unknown angle. Since we have numbers on the adjacent and the hypotenuse, adjacent and hypotenuse means we're doing cosine. So we're going to do cosine of x equals adjacent over hypotenuse, so 5 over 15. Now, please listen carefully. Anytime you don't know the angle, you're going to be doing the second button. You're going to be doing the inverse function. This is where you switch them. So it looks like this. These two switch so that it's cosine -1 5 over 15 equals x. You're switching to the inverse function and switching the x with the fraction. To type that, clear it out. Last one, here we go. 5 fraction button 13 second cosine equals. That's going to give you 67. Oh, hold on. Clear that out. Let me make sure I got it right. Sorry. I hit a button and cleared it out at the end. Sorry, I didn't get to see the answer. I think it said 67, but let me just check. Okay, here we go. So we've got 5 fraction button 15 second cosine equals. No, it wasn't 67, it was 7. So it's 70.5. So on the calculator, it's 70.5 equals x. Sorry, I misread it. I knew, and I hit it clear instead of seeing what it was. I think it said 67. I must have hit the wrong number. So let me type it one more time just so you're very clear on it. I just want to make sure everybody's good on this, and I want to leave one where you don't know. It's going to be 5 fraction button 15 second cosine equals, which gives you 70.5 on the calculator. A 0 with a 5 after, it's going to round up, so it's going to be 71 equals x, which makes this 71 degrees. Okay, guys, that's your review worksheet. Make sure you have this completed and ready to turn in when you walk in for your test tomorrow. If you have any questions, hit me up on Remind.